Hey folks, happy Saturday. This lighting is so weird today and I don't know why, and I couldn't fix it, so I'm just gonna leave it the way it is. When you get into the chat, give me a hey and tell me where you're coming in from today. Um, it's pretty cold up here in Maine today, and I've spent the day doing Pity Posse pantry stuff, working on a business plan with my husband, reading a little bit of a library book, eating the hell out of a bag of salt and vinegar potato chips. What else? That's kind of it. And I got a pedicure. That was my self-care. And sleeping late. Oh, so good to sleep late. Anyway, it's Saturday and I wanted to talk to you. I woke up this morning thinking about saying no. And I put a cute meme in Sacred Biz Rebels. Say hi when you come on, whether you're seeing this live or coming in later and watching the recording. Just say hi so I know you've been by and I can say hi back to you. I put a meme up in Sacred Biz Rebels about saying no. And I was thinking about it because I think a lot about, how I spend my time and effective uses of my time. And as you guys know, there's generally about 100 things on my plate at one time. And my clients are very much the same. I work with multi-passionate women who are doing crazy, amazing things in the world and are always juggling more than a few different balls up in the air at the same time. So how we spend our time is always really interesting to me. And I think that one of the things that's most important to me is knowing when to say yes to something and when to say no. And maybe like a part B to this video, maybe I'll do this tomorrow if you guys would be interested in this. Happy Saturday, Nanette. Maybe a part B is sort of like how to uphold boundaries when you say no, or how to uphold boundaries when you're like afraid to say no or resistant to say no. But for now, I'll say that I want to talk about 3 things today: when, where, and why to say no to things. So those of you who have gone through the Sacred Structure tool with me before, this will be familiar. And if not, stay tuned for the book being released at the end of April, beginning of May. And I'll work through this with you in the book. But Sacred Structure is basically the way that I formulate my priorities, get really, really clear about them, and then manage my time according to my priorities. So for instance, my biggest priorities right now are my own health, because I have an immune disorder. So if I run myself ragged, I'll just stop like in my tracks. So my own health and self-care and the nurturing of myself, my family, In Arms Coaching, Pity Posse, and then like my friends, my social circle. Those are really the things on my plate. And I'm very, very boundaried about how I spend my time. It really 99.9% of the time, for me to do something, it has to contribute to one of those, what was that, 5 things? One of those 5 things. And of course, there are subcategories in all of those. Like I'm spending a lot of time now working on the book, but that falls under In Arms Coaching. I'm spending a lot of time working on the pet food pantry that we run, but that falls under Pity Posse. I'm spending a lot of time on my own self-care right now, but that falls under me. So my bullseye priorities, and this comes again from the Sacred Structure tool, which might still be on my website. I'm not sure. Let me know if you want to know more about it. But my bullseye priorities basically act as a filter for the things that I do. So when someone says, hey, can you do this thing? And this is sort of the when to say no. What I do is, first of all, and this is my first big tip for you, never say no in the moment. I mean, never say yes in the moment, or no, unless it's a solid no. Never say yes in the moment. Say, that's really interesting. Say, thank you so much for thinking of me. And then say, let me take this back and look at my schedule and give you an answer tomorrow, next week, in 3 days, whatever. Then take it back and look at how it fits your priorities. Does it really fit into your priorities right now? If so, do you have the time? Because that's also really important to consider. It might fit into your priorities, but you might not have the time or be able to delegate things to make the time. So that's the when. Say no when someone asks you for something or when something comes across your plate that does not directly contribute to your priorities and goals in this moment. And you don't have to say no forever. You can say, I would love to, I don't have the bandwidth. Can you check back with me in a couple months or next year or whatever? Why is that? For most of the women in my community, we are helpers. We are really good hearted people trying to do good things in the world. So most of us want to help anyone that we possibly can. And it just doesn't work that way. We have to have our own oxygen mask on before we can help other people. And this goes for like your clients, your friends, your family. You have to have your own oxygen mask on if you're going to affect change in the world. So, why to say no is that you can't possibly do all the things. And because you are an extraordinarily good hearted person, and I just know that about you if you're in my community, your tendency is probably to say yes more times than it makes sense to, more times than you have the bandwidth to, more times than you actually have the time for. And so it's really important to understand that you don't have to say yes to everything and that you can't actually do the things that you want to need to be doing if you're saying yes to everything. So the why is that it's a really important tool of cultivating your own health and well-being so that you can go out into the world and do these amazing things for your family, for your community, in your business, whatever it is. I did the when, and I think I did the what. So the what is the piece around really just like, I can't talk enough about the tool of never saying yes to anyone's face. The what is really just making it just like an automatic thing to say, that sounds amazing. Let me sleep on it, think about it, look at my schedule and tell you whatever. And that way you can go home and really feel into, does this feed one of your top priorities or goals? Do you have the bandwidth? What will happen? What will have to move if you don't have the bandwidth? And is that okay with you? You can evaluate it away from someone's waiting, smiling face. And then you can just email them, because for some people it's also really hard to say no in person. You don't have to say no in person. You can text them, you can email them. I just really want my community to be more comfortable saying no, thank you, I cannot, thank you for thinking of me, but those kinds of things, because things are really exhausting right now. In particular, like, we are all exhausted, we're all stressed, we're all isolated, we're all like dealing with things that we weren't a year and a half ago. So it's really important to check your own energy and make sure that your oxygen mask is on beforehand, before you help anyone else's with theirs, right? Don't they say that in a plane? They even say to put your own oxygen mask on before your child's oxygen mask. Like, it's that important. So for women who are out in the world building businesses and, following multi-passionate dreams and visions, I really, really want you to consider the things that you say yes to and the things that you say no to. I want you to consider your resistance to saying no, any resistance to saying no, how it makes you feel, what your beliefs are, or how you were raised to think about saying no. This is another thing for a lot of women. We all grew up as little girls, and little girls collectively in our culture are not really supposed to say no. This was a big deal when my kid was a baby. We actually, I never let people inflict physical contact on her. I never made her hug anyone she didn't want to hug. I never made her let people kiss her. I never made her sit on people's laps. I was like, girlfriend, nobody has to touch you. If you want to touch people, you can initiate it. And when people really wanted to say hi to her, I'd say, you can see if she wants to give you a high five, but that's really the only kind of contact that she's comfortable with, because I wanted to raise a girl who knew that not only could she say no, but that people had to listen to her no. And most of us were not raised that way. And it's not like our parents were like scumbags or anything. I think that they were all really well intentioned. And we were raised by women who also didn't get to say no. But no is a very powerful word. It's a magical word. It's a boundary setting word. Hey, Raylene. Hey, Sabrina. Sabrina, I'm so glad you've gotten really good at saying no. No is a magical spell that puts up a boundary. And you guys can let me know if you're interested in hearing more about boundaries. I can do a different video on that. But what I really want to leave you with is thinking about, your connection to the word no and how comfortable you are using it and what you need to get more comfortable using it. So, yes. Oh, yes, Sabrina, exactly. Sabrina's saying she's a Southern girl and she's definitely not raised to say no. Yeah, none of us were raised to say no, and can't remember if it was my mother or some other adult, but they were like, aren't you worried that she'll hurt people's feelings? And I was like, fuck no. I mean, if it hurts an adult's feelings that a 3-year-old won't give them a hug or sit on their lap, then that's their work, not my kids' work. And I hope that, in raising a toddler who knew that she could say no to something happening with her body, I hope that that would translate to when she was on a date, and like my kid knows that no one gets to touch her body without her consent. And yes, that made braiding her hair very difficult when she was 2 and 3 and 4, because she would say, no, mommy, this is my me. I don't want braids and it's my hair and I get to say what happens to me. But I was like, you know what, girl? I'll take the headache right now if you'll say that same thing to some boy when you're 16. So, no is just a really, really magical word. And I want you to think about where your energy is going these days. And oops, sorry, I think I got cut off. No is just a really magical word, and I want to give you a gift of really focusing on where your energy is going these days and what you need in place to take care of you, and what you need to be saying no to, and what conditions you need in place to say no. And I support your no. I support your no all the way to the moon and back. So that's all I have to say. If I keep talking, I'm really just going to repeat all the things that I said before. But as always, thank you so much for watching. These are 30 videos in 30 days that I'm in. I think this will be the second week of them. And I'm taking requests. They don't all have to be like more philosophical videos. They can be how to attract a client, how to, like, I don't care. Just tell me what you want me to talk to you about. And I'm going to talk to you every day for 30 days and I'm loving it. So give me some topics to talk about that you want to hear about. Anything about building a business, managing your time to do your passion in the world, getting visible, fears around success, any of those things. Really anything. Really anything. I'll tell you if I'm like, ooh, I won't talk about that online. I can't think of what you'd ask me to talk about that I wouldn't talk about online. But anyway, have a wonderful rest of your Saturday. My kid is bugging me to take her to Starbucks. And I'm not going to say no to her because it's important.